It's a masterful film. Ahmir, this notion, as I was thinking about the movie again, I'm going to work backwards from something, which is this idea of Sly being, at this moment, a regular old black man. To me, almost feels liberating. It's a story of survival. It's a story of obstacles, but that we can look at this genius as a regular old black man feels like the liberation that I think was. I don't know if you would have predicted that's where how you would conclude this necessarily, but
I think for myself, when I first started, like back in '92, '93, I'd sit routinely and try and figure out, like, what exactly is my role going to be? And so I looked at what history has allowed examples to be as far as what is our role for most black people. There's like 5 categories, but maybe 4 are really allowed. Of course, the over-sexualized Mandingo factor, the kind of scary, vicarious gangster, hide your daughters, that person. 3 would be kind of the big in the 80s, well, not even the 80s, like this ambiguous, something about you is ambiguous, like you gotta sort of blend in and code switch your way into the system. And of course, tried and true, buffoonish joke, post-minstrelsy, But that fifth space I was always obsessed with, that I don't think we were really allowed, is like kind of, like we can either be superhuman, or credit to our race, or we are subhuman, and kind of, you're either +2 or -2, just to get to that middle ground zero space. That's the struggle where we're at, which is like, are we truly relatable, or are we truly equal? Like, do I see you as how I see myself? And so I would like to think that's where Sly was going, because, the fact that he's just so free to make funky nursery rhyme songs, and, also be as esoteric or grandiose or as talented as anybody that you will put up against him. He's trying to cover all those bases, and I think now is the time where we're really comfortable with talking about our mental health and things that we normally wouldn't talk about in history. So I felt like this is a great example, because of course, this is not just the Sly story. So I always try to have an intervention talk with my community, and I guess this is how we did it.
it gave you away. And to that point, what I was really struck by when I watched the movie was how you trained the camera on your subjects and their reaction to that question of black genius, and the way you cut that together to, I think, invite the audience to pause on it every time and see those different reactions. There's a transparency to that. There's an agenda that is really profound. And when it's Ahmir Questlove Thompson asking that question, it's profound.
Can I just say something
Please,
about that?
Joseph.
Ahmir, I think I, as his friend and collaborator for many years, like, I have seen him go through that same struggle.
Yeah.
Everybody we talked to understood the question that was being asked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't a foreign concept. It wasn't something we had to explain to them. What do you mean by that? They all understood. And I think, because it was coming from him, artist to artist, we got some like real answers, and I think that's sort of something, I mean, we weren't sure if that was going to be the case.
Yeah, I think, well, of course, the hardest thing, I always joke, when you look into D'Angelo's eyes and you see him realize the moment where, like, you trapped me, motherfucker. Like, you said we were talking about background harmonies. That too. But it's probably the hardest part was kind of lure people to really be open with us, because it's just, you know, asking someone how you feel, that's too human. And we aren't often asked how we feel. It's always just, you know, just throw you right in the water, like piranha or not, like just, you know. And sometimes I'm guilty of that as well. Like, you know, one of my many vices is overworking, you know. Work hard to not have to deal with myself. And so I've been many a times like sitting in the audience, looking at my like, supposed to be here like 90 minutes ago on stage. You only have one job. Like I was that person. I was judgmental as well. But I now understand like this had to get me, even though I too was going through this, especially like post Summer of Soul. But I even understood their side of the fence too, even as it was happening to this movie. Like, it took 2.5 years to make it, and a lot of it was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and getting stood up and waiting and being on set and making excuses. And you know, I'm just so glad that we're here at this point now.
And 2 artists who canceled day of.
Day on.
Day
you know
on.
what I mean? So,
We won't name names.
it's understandable, you know. And that's the thing. I want people to have just a deeper understanding, especially with those that you see as superhuman and not human.
Tell me if this question goes too far, but your movie invites this question, and you kind of got to it just a second ago. But after making this movie, the two of you together, do you see your journey differently now on the other side of it?
I mean, my life is totally transformed. Like, nothing about the last 5 years is normal or was even on my bingo list. Like, you asked me back in, 2017, what was I going to be doing? I figured, okay, well, probably another Roots album and see where late night takes us, and maybe I'll go to Sundance and DJ a gig. But I would say that the circumstances that's led to this moment right now is a lot of self-reflection. Like, again, not even to insert myself into the story, but just like, the insane amount of hours I had to clock in doing therapy, and really just like, there'd be times I come home like, wow, I wonder if my families feel that way about me. Like, am I a good communicator? Am I da-da-da? Am I? The answer was a resounding no. So I had a lot of work to do on myself, So it's changed me as a human being, and I think that'll change me as a creator and a collaborator, and
I appreciate that answer, thank you. Joseph, your friend, your collaborator, you guys must have spent some time talking about what we're talking about right now. From your side of it, how is this project specific, how is this film, and now being on the other side of it and unveiling it, how has that shaped your journey?
I made a lot of changes to my life about 5 years ago. Like Summer of Soul and this movie and all the success that we've had make it in this world. Like I was a journalist, I interviewed him for a magazine. Like, I'm working with one of my musical heroes. Like, my life changed after I made those changes in my life. So this is almost like the result of that, right? But also just seeing his growth. I mean, we met in 1996, and the last 7-8 years of his life, he's grown dramatically. And to be a witness to that, to put that energy into something like this, like, it's extraordinary. And it just validates the changes in my life, and I know it validates the changes he's made in his life, that we get to go on this other journey now.
Thank you. Let's look at the other side of it. Let's look at the mobilizing all the efforts required to get a movie to the level and depth and the conversations, booking people, you talked about that. The backbone of it, which is this starting with some songs we might know and a story we might have heard, but then going so much deeper and then taking apart some of this music and building it back up and then showing us the connections to artists that maybe drawing those links that maybe we hadn't been thinking about. I see that in your writing, Ahmir. I see that in how you process the world. It's a lot to bring. So how do you modulate that kind of
I think generally, especially when like we were just at the what do we call our table?
Our
the war
brainstorming
table.
table, yeah.
Yeah. I think we knew that whatever story we told, on one side of the spectrum, I guess we could say that they're heads, you know, Sly heads, hip hop heads, people that know general inside baseball information. So we were just as concerned about like going through all, like a lot of, how many reels did you have? 700 plus at least, or?
Something, it was a few hundred.
Or hours, I'm sorry. So many hours of songs that he's created, and you get to hear, like, the example of you hearing what everyday people sounded like takes before the version that we know. So there's like pleasing the inside baseball audience, but also kind of making sure that a person who absolutely positively has no clue who Sly Stone is, like they can, but everyone can relate to a human element, you know. And every day we walk through life with, am I talking myself out, am I blessing, am I self-sabotaging myself? Am I walking on the path to the right side or the wrong side of history for these next 24 hours? Like, there's something relatable, so you kind of have to please both. And I will say maybe with this film, because there's so much Jenga structures pulled, that if one song, like the beginning, we had so many alternate starts of like rare concert stuff not seen and all this, so one shift would like almost affect the whole story. But I think it's pleasing the inside baseball person and the person that sees a human being.
Actually, the real reason is you just hired Josh Pearson as your editor. And it takes
That's
care of
it,
itself.
yes. Credit to Josh Pearson, the master. Yes.
This has been a memorable, unforgettable evening. I want to
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you for writing it out with us, and your patience and your generosity, and sharing this beautiful movie with us at Sundance.
Please, February 13th, this comes on Hulu. I would appreciate it if you tell somebody about this and really just share the story. We're gonna need, and not to be too dramatical with it, but especially this time period, we're gonna need clear-minded artists leading and inspiring us. So, our aim is true. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good